How's it going, guys? This is the Core 3 from fightinggamesonline.info, and I am back with another first look. It is already the start of the new year, and we are getting what might just be the biggest fighting game of the year in Dragon Ball FighterZ. We are almost just 1 week away from officially getting our hands on the game full time, but before this happened, Namco Bandai decided to give everyone a sneak peek with an open beta. We of course were not going to miss out on this beta, and after spending some greatly appreciated time with it, we're going to give you our initial impressions. So in this latest first look, we're going to cover the origins of the fighting game title, talk about the developers of this title. As usual, I'll talk about the game design, gameplay elements, and of course the online experience. Now the origins of this title go back to a popular Shonen Jump manga. Its creator is Akira Toriyama. It's been said that Dragon Ball's inception was greatly influenced by kung fu movies that Akira would watch obsessively, and if you ever watched the anime based on this popular work, then you can see that clear as day. Now many people like myself were introduced to the world of Dragon Ball through the anime, but in Japan the Dragon Ball series was completely titled Dragon Ball throughout. When it came here to the States, they decided to split the series into 2 sagas to reflect the main character's journey going into adulthood, and they titled that Dragon Ball Z. Dragon Ball Z was personally my first experience with the universe, and like many growing up here in the States, it was the Z series that introduced us to the frantic and long-winded world of Dragon Ball. If you have not watched the series, I certainly suggest that you check it out. It's hands down some of the best fight scenes ever created in an anime, and I became an instant fan of the series because of that. If you have ever seen the tournament saga in any of the animes that you watch, thank Akira Toriyama for that, because he's responsible. Before Dragon Ball became widely popular here in the US, it had already reached massive success in Japan, and like most animes and cartoons that have success, eventually they move on to other mediums. Games based on the Dragon Ball franchise have a pretty storied history dating all the way back to the original Nintendo days. Of course, many of the games were for sale in Japan only and could only be played through imports, but once Dragon Ball became more popular here in the States, we started to see games emerge over here very soon after. Now just a few years after Street Fighter II came to be, fighting games based on the Dragon Ball story arcs would start to be developed. Throughout the years there have been some fairly good ones, but nothing that really encapsulated the unique depth that the genre is mainly known for. Fast forward to 2017, and just 2 days before the Microsoft E3 press conference, information about a new Dragon Ball fighting game was revealed. The information was sparse, but one incredible detail had everyone's radar on full blast. The game was being developed by Arc System Works. While this did come as a very big surprise, Arc System Works had already worked on handheld titles featuring the Dragon Ball universe. As a matter of fact, they developed the Dragon Ball fighting game that came to the 3DS just 2 years ago. It was actually something that was a bit frustrating at the time because Namco Bandai had released Xenoverse for the PS4 and Xbox One console, but little did I know they had something in the works. Now for those who do not know, Arc System Works are among the best of the best when it comes to fighting games. They are developers of the popular Guilty Gear and BlazBlue franchise, and in the past they have also developed a fighting game based on another popular Shonen Jump, Fist of the North Star, which eventually made its way to the PlayStation 2 during the latter part of the console's lifecycle. Believe me when I tell you there is no game that comes even close to what Arc System Works created for that franchise. Namco Bandai could have not picked a better developer. Arc System Works is basically the godfather of a subgenre that has been coined within the fighting game community as anime. And I know how ironic that sounds, but it's totally true. The artistic style that they use in their games are unmistakably identical to each other, and it's what truly sets this company apart from other major players in the genre. With that being said, let's get into the beta. Now the open beta included 11 playable characters, 7 stages, World Match, which is basically casual and ranked matchmaking, and a tutorial mode. So let's get into the design of the game. Namco Bandai has been marketing the game as 2.5D as a way of explaining it to fans who are coming from Xenoverse and past Dragon Ball titles that are used to the more 3D style of gameplay. Essentially what they do is take 3D assets and put them into a traditional 2D-like environment. I think what ultimately made this development choice a much needed decision was the ability to use dynamic camera angles during gameplay. This is something that you cannot do with pixel and line art graphics. Zooming in and out is about as far as you're going to get with that. To me, this is what ultimately gives Dragon Ball FighterZ its additional edginess and I really don't think ArcSys could have really reached this point without jumping into a 3D environment. Now for this title, Arc System Works has upgraded to the Unreal Engine 4 before they used the Unreal Engine 3, and I mainly think they were using this because of the PlayStation 3. The use of the updated engine is showing things in ways that I probably could not have imagined. I think where the game really changes is in the use of the destructible backgrounds. Things are exploding, planets are completely getting decimated while you're still on them, characters are showing wear and tear on their clothes during the battle. This to me is where you are seeing the power of the next gen hardware being pushed to its limit, and it's just incredible to look at. Now let's get into some gameplay. Arc System Works have definitely toned down the gameplay a bit on this title, but I use the word toned down pretty lightly, as the deeper you go down the rabbit hole with this game, the more you're going to find. If there's one thing that you need to know about Arc System Works coming from other games, is that they have a ton of game mechanics in their fighting games. Dragon Ball FighterZ is going to be no different. Now one of the first things that I wanted to test out in this game was their auto combo system. Of course, many people will be migrating from other Dragon Ball games like Xenoverse, and I think what they have in place should make things somewhat comfortable for those making this transition. The developer first implemented this system for the Persona 4 arena fighting game, and they are taking things a step further by now giving each attack button an auto combo function. Now unlike most fighting games that use this mechanic, ArcSys actually does things a bit differently by giving you a manual override that basically lets you choose any path you think will work best for you. They have always used the chain combo system for their basic attacks, which if you're unfamiliar with the system, starts with the weakest attack and then goes to the strongest. I definitely found some interesting strings when starting with the auto combo and then taking it over halfway through. I'm really eager to know what the damage scaling is like, as it's been known to scale higher with auto combos as a way of rewarding the player who chooses to do his combos manually with better damage. Now I think the biggest mechanic in this game is the super dash. It's an attack that homes in on your opponent. It can be used at any moment, and once it lands, your character has the opportunity to follow up with a combo. This attack can also go through projectiles, and you can follow up with it after you've landed or chained into your strongest attack. It really is a large part of the offensive game. Now of course there is also a tag team element to this game, but I really didn't get a chance to get deep into this. There are several ways to tag into your opponent, and I feel like your first and second character will probably be a huge part of the strategy when it comes to this mechanic. Assists are also going to be in this game as well, but to be honest, many of the characters' assists do not feel very strong at the moment. Once you have used an assist, it does take a good amount of time before you can use it again, and I believe that the character that does the assist cannot even be tagged in as well during the recycling period. Now the latest mechanic that just got introduced into the game was the Shenron system, and it's based on the Dragon Ball lore that basically allowed you to grant a wish by collecting 7 Dragon Balls. In the game, you earn Dragon Balls based on the combos that you create. Not only do you need 7 Dragon Balls, but you'll also have to gain 7 meters in order to activate this mechanic. It's a strange activation, but you basically have to land the weak auto combo to call Shenron. Once this is completed, you have 4 wishes to choose from that range from bringing back a fallen teammate to regenerating your energy. I really do not see this mechanic getting activated much based on its requirements, but it's too soon to really say at this moment. Now I know a lot of you guys are wondering about the online play, and unfortunately the beta didn't quite work out as it was intended. I believe opening it up to everybody kind of opened up the floodgates, so to speak, which is a good thing because it's better to know this now than to know this when it happens on the actual release date. I believe I was one of the more fortunate people involved in the beta, as I managed to get through roughly about an hour after my first few attempts. Even when I did get on, the matchmaking system was just not working. I managed to get one match the entire time I was playing, but I had friends who never even were able to get matched up at all. So if the tutorial was not available and open and allowing us to play at with the trials, things would have probably been a very big bust. Now the one match that I did play was actually a pretty good experience. It was a firebar connection, there were no lag spikes, and my inputs were very responsive. The game does run on input delay. This has been common in all of Arc System Works titles, it's never changed. Like the Guilty Gear XR title, the game does show the amount of delay that's added. For me, it was 3 frames, which was actually not that bad. On the average, I usually end up with about 4 to 5 frames in most matches. 2 is usually what you're going to be aiming for, and if the activity is what I think it'll be on this game, you'll probably be able to get a fair amount of matches at this delay. I definitely wish I could have given more details about the experience, but this was to be expected. These betas rarely run smoothly, and connecting has generally been a toss-up in 80% of the ones I've tried, so I did have my hopes up, but I knew this was going to be a possibility. So that was basically my experience. I can't wait to play this game and get some real hands-on time. The game looks amazing, and based on what I've experienced, it also plays that way as well. It's fair to say that we may in fact be looking at the best Dragon Ball fighting game ever created. I mean, I feel like the Shenron system may be a bit much and the assist system may need a little bit more tweaking, but outside of that, I'm finding it very hard at the moment to find flaws with this game. If what I saw in the activity of the beta yesterday was a direct indication of the interest for this title, then Dragon Ball FighterZ is going to be a pretty big deal. I feel like the game can only get better moving forward, but the foundation that's laid presently has me wondering how much more they can do, because honestly, this is more than enough already. Dragon Ball FighterZ will officially be here on January 26th for the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and the PC, which is just 10 days away, so keep calm and start the countdown. Well, that is it for the first look. Things didn't turn out as we hoped, yet and still it's a great way to see the start of the new year. We're certainly hoping to get a few glimpses of some more upcoming titles this year, and maybe get a lot more reviews done as well. We'll be making some of what we hope are interesting changes to our game section, so please be on the lookout as we'll be rolling that out around Dragon Ball FighterZ release. I'm also working on a new tutorial series, but that is actually going to take much longer than I originally anticipated. Anyway, stay tuned, we'll have more content on the way, and we hope that we'll be able to stay consistent with this for the year.